Hello, I'm Dr. Stephen Andrew Missick, and welcome to this another addendum or supplemental episode to Introduction to Aramaic Studies. And during the last lecture, there's something I want to mention that sort of slipped my mind. And I do want to say that I'll be talking about Aramaic in the Introduction to Aramaic series, but I think at the end I'm going to start putting in lessons of sort or recordings where you can hear Aramaic speakers, maybe Aramaic music and songs, things like that, so you can be exposed to the language being spoken by native speakers. So what I wanted to say last time, we're going to talk about Eastern and Western Aramaic really quickly. So in the previous lecture, I was talking about how you have certain non-Orthodox sects and cult groups like the Jehovah's Witnesses, and you had the Millerites that founded the Seventh-day Adventist Church, or the Adventist Church and the Seventh-day Baptist merged with the Seventh-day Adventist. And then you have the offshoot led by, I think, Charles Taze Russell. He's an offshoot of the Seventh-day Adventists called the Jehovah's Witnesses, and you have the Way International. But these are fringe groups outside of traditional Christian orthodoxy. And one of the things they do is they deny the immortality of the soul. They teach cessation of existence or soul sleep. And it's like, what does the Bible teach? And one of the places where I guess this is dealt with, the idea of a ghost or a spirit, is when Jesus is walking on the water, the apostles look, in the Greek they see a phantasm, they see a ghost. That's how it's usually translated. And in the Aramaic, it's translated in different ways because we have different manuscripts. We have the Old Syriac, and then you have the Peshitta version. And so these are two alternate Aramaic New Testaments, Aramaic Gospels. And as you saw in the previous lesson, which is based on an instruction given by Professor, Michael Wingert, he's talking about, and when I was doing say this several years ago, and I was kind of perplexed by it, because the words that they use for apparition is a false vision in the Peshitta. In the Old Syriac, which he calls the Curitan version, they say a demon, and it's like, well, did they believe they're seeing a demon, or did they believe they're seeing a ghost? What beliefs do they have in that culture? So the thing is, when you have a theologian or someone translating it, sometimes it's like, what was the original word being used? Well, there is another Aramaic New Testament, and this is sometimes it's called the Christian Palestinian Syriac, but more correctly it's the Christian Palestinian Aramaic. It's not Syriac. Technically, Jesus would have spoken Western Aramaic. Now, Western Aramaic is still spoken. I've been to Malula in Syria. It's on the cover of my book, The Words of Jesus in Original Aramaic. It's a photograph I took, and I got video. I've been to Malula many times, and they speak Western Aramaic, and Jesus' language, his Aramaic language, would have been Western Aramaic. Technically, Classical Syriac is Eastern Aramaic, but the Palestinian Christian Aramaic that we have, it's kind of interesting. It's like, how would they have said that? Because this is Western Aramaic from the Holy Land, from Palestine. The problem with the Palestinian Christian Aramaic Bible is it's fragmentary. So I'm looking for that verse. It's not represented. Matthew starts in chapter 20 or so. So the text of the New Testament we have in Christian Palestinian Syriac, we have large portions, but we're missing some pivotal sections, like that verse, which I was interested in. Oh, what does the Christian Palestinian Aramaic say? It's not there. But the other problem, number one, the problem with Christian Palestinian Aramaic, I think it's from 400 or 500 years after the time of Jesus. So it's a little later, but it's still in his dialect. So it should be valuable, right? The thing is, even though the Syriac Peshitta and the Old Syriac is in Eastern Aramaic. It's contemporary with Jesus, and it's a mutually intelligible language. So classical Syriac, even though it's Eastern Aramaic, would still be very similar to the way that Jesus would have spoken. He would have understood it, and they would have understood him. It's mutually intelligible, right? So it's contemporary with Jesus. It's mutually intelligible with his dialect. So there are other, like they used to call it the Palestinian Talmud, but it's the Jerusalem Talmud is written in a Western Aramaic dialect. So that should be valuable as well. But I mean, so let's just say, how would you say that in, the Palestinian or the Jerusalem Talmud? Well, they don't have, of course, they're not going to have Matthew's gospel represented, right? The other problem with the Palestinian Christian Aramaic New Testament is that they translated from the Greek, and it's a very Slavish, wooden, literal translation from the Greek that tortures the Aramaic. So it's not the way that they would have spoken naturally. Whoever translated it is butchering the Aramaic to make it as literal to the Greek translation as possible. So this translator, instead of just translating it into everyday normal Aramaic, and it's so literal that I think they found the verse where it says, and Jesus says to the little girl, Talitha Kumi, which means Talitha Kumi, because in the Peshitta they don't do that because it's redundant. Why do that? Right? Why repeat that? Because you don't need to translate Talitha Kumi. It's Aramaic, and the reader knows what it means. But in the Christian Palestinian Syriac, they repeated that because it says it in the Greek. And even though it's nonsensical, he's following the Greek as closely, as literally as possible. So that kind of diminishes the usefulness of Christian Palestinian Aramaic. But still, it's Western Aramaic. It's probably very close to the Aramaic Jesus would have spoken. It's in the same dialect, a little bit later. But it seems like it'd be very valuable. But then there's two reasons why it's not. Because that one verse you're looking for is not going to be, there's going to be a hole in the text right where that is. Maybe not. There's a lot represented. So you can consult it. But there's a big chance the verse that, I wonder what that is in Aramaic. I wonder what the Christian Palestinian Aramaic says. Most likely that verse will be a hole in the text, like it is in this instance, unfortunately. And then the other thing is, it's such a literal translation, it tortures the Aramaic, and it's not, like I said, it diminishes its usefulness. But it'd be interesting to consult and take a look at it. How would that word have been translated? What word would they have used? Rucha is a spirit. Would they use some other word? But unfortunately, that verse is not found in the Palestinian Christian Aramaic. Now, the important thing about the Palestinian Christian Aramaic, and I was surprised about this. I remember we had that big, I think it was 2008 or so, we had the big financial collapse, and I guess a lot of colleges and universities were hurting for money. So that the Christian Aramaic, the Palestinian Christian Aramaic Bible was auctioned off by the university, and I think it's in England. And I was shocked. It's like, that's a very important manuscript. An ancient manuscript in Western Aramaic, the dialect that Jesus would have spoken. You're just going to sell it? So what happened is the Green family of Hobby Lobby bought it, and that was the first biblical artifact that they purchased to begin their collection, which became the Bible Museum, which I've visited. Actually, I met Mr. Green when I was in the border mission. He came down to visit, and I brought our soldiers to go and meet him. He's very kind and nice. It was really nice of him to take time to meet me and our soldiers when I was doing the border mission under President Trump. And that's another thing I want to talk about briefly is, like, I had a lot of content. Sometimes I don't put a lot of political content out there, but sometimes I would. And it's like, if people want to look at my channel, there's videos that they're interested in. There might be some videos they aren't interested in. The audience should decide that, but Google and YouTube don't want conservative opinions to be expressed. You can only have Marxist and left-wing opinions expressed. Now that Trump is back, they're relaxing their censorship, but they totally deplatformed me. So I have videos. I'm just going to put them back up. I have videos of me going to these Aramaic villages and visiting them, where people letting people see and hear it for themselves. All that content is I should have backup files of almost everything. But I never thought that we would have censorship in the United like we did, and don't be deluded. It's the FBI censorship. The Twitter files showed that, so it's totally unconstitutional. But then we have Amy Coney Barrett in the Supreme Court. It goes to the Supreme Court, and they don't make a decision. It should be no question about it. We have the United States Constitution. We have our First Amendment, and the federal government doesn't have the right. It's unconstitutional for them to determine, we don't like this sermon, we don't like that opinion, we don't like these facts from history being discussed, so we're going to suppress it or censor it outright. And they should not have been allowed to do that. I'm disgusted by Amy Coney Barrett and the Supreme Court not making a decisive decision in protecting our Constitution. And I don't know what happened to that woman, how she's compromised. And some of her argument was just so absurd. It's like, well, the FBI has to monitor our speech. If the FBI is not monitoring our speech, all these kids they'll live stream. They'll be on their cell phones and they'll be compelled, let's go to the highest building and all leap off like lemmings. Were the only thing stopping our children from running to the tallest building and leaping from the roof of the tallest building to their death by the hundreds of thousands or millions. The only thing that's stopping them from doing that is the FBI. I mean, if the FBI wasn't there to monitor and censor our speech, children get on their cell phone and run to the top of the building and live stream themselves as they leap to their deaths. And it's like, are you kidding me? That's the most ridiculous, asinine thing I've ever heard in my life. And yet she made that argument. So I'm going to start putting the content back up. Now this episode, I want to put the Nicene Creed in Aramaic up, and then I'm going to put up the church service in Aramaic from Malula, and some of my other videos where you can see and hear Aramaic speakers and just other lessons. So I mentioned this last time. Someone had a comment about it, but this is Introduction to Syriac by W.M. Thaxton. And we'll talk about this in a different lesson. But so this is one of the you can see I've used this to learn Aramaic. Heavily used. But I'm trying to do this as a self-learner, and he doesn't have answer keys, right? So it's like, how can I trust myself to check my learning if there's no answer key? So if I translate this wrong, I don't know. So finally, the students, after several years, made Introduction to Aramaic, Key to Exercises English Syriac Vocabulary by Daniel Gertner. You have to have this. So when was this published? Let me look here. 1999. So when did we finally produce the study answer key? 2006. How could you publish a book like that without the resources to enable your students to learn if there's no instructor? And of course we have the basic classical Syriac. Much more thorough, detailed. I use this other book. It's good in a certain way, but this is a vast improvement. Plus he has videos and DVDs or, links where you can get the instruction and hear the pronunciations. So Christians, actually I saw the manuscript when I went to the Bible Museum after I met Mr. Green. I think he's got a doctorate too. He's got a theological education. And if you're in D.C., I'd recommend going to the Bible Museum. It's right real close to the Capitol. And you go on the first floor, and it's like the impact of the Bible on society and culture. Hopefully they'll change these things around. So the first thing you go in there is like it's founding the United States of America. It talks about the Puritan, the Pilgrims, and blacks and Native Americans, and it had this big this picture of was it John Brown, the axe murderer, started before the Civil War as a terrorist. It's like, I don't really care for that guy. It's a long story. I want to talk about the American Civil War, or Lincoln's War, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, you go through there, and it's very interesting. It shows on science, culture, around the world, the Bible's influence. I think the second story is like audiovisual. You know, they got movies and they got this little, you walk through this corridor and, you know, the Bible stories going on around you. And the top floor, I think they have a higher floor actually. It has visiting exhibitions and like conference rooms and things like that. But the museum itself is 3 levels, right? That the top level is not really part of the, like you can go up there, but it's not really part of the display, the permanent display. So the 3rd level of the Bible Museum has the Christian, Palestinian Christian Aramaic Bible, and a very impressive collection of biblical artifacts and manuscripts on display. And a lot of these, sometimes you have recreations, but a lot of actual, you know, priceless artifacts that are very, very important. The Kibboris manuscript is there. It's kind of, the Kibboris manuscript is, I could talk about that another, it's just a manuscript, the Peshitta medieval manuscript that's somehow attracted a lot of attention. I mean, I guess it's an important manuscript, but there's older and more important manuscripts than that. But a decent collection of not just Aramaic, Greek, Coptic, Ethiopic, very, very impressive collection, which is worth seeing. Their idea is like when they decided, they wrote a book about that. This is called The Dangerous Book or something like that. I forget the name of the exact title, where he talks about how he created this museum. And they're thinking, where should we put this museum? In Dallas? And he goes, no, let's put this as a witness, as a light of the gospel. Let's put this edifice to celebrate the Word of God and its truthfulness, its message, its influence. Let's put this right on the nation's capital, D.C., to bring the Word of God to the heart of America and its governance. So, but why not? Smithsonian's there. And it's a nice museum. I recommend if you're in D.C. or if you should, it's good to go to D.C. So it's worth going to see the Bible Museum. So this is a supplemental episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and join us next week, I guess, for episode 5. I just wanted to mention the Christian Palestinian Aramaic or Syriac New Testament, and it's important. And soon, like I said, there's been a lot of tragedies, disasters, and devastation I faced, and my collection of my library, my theological library, we had a hurricane, a tree sliced my library in two, and I haven't gotten everything out of there yet. I got to dig through things. It's just a process to find things. It's a disaster, but happy days are here again. I'm looking forward to a positive future. I guess I went through a hard time like Job, and now gone through it. It's time to get back to work. And I've been remiss. I had a Syrian friend say, why aren't you putting out content and working on it? It's like, oh, because I've gone through a lot of crap lately. Get back to work. I thought about it. It's like, well, you're right. Okay. Start putting out content again. And the other thing is it's like if I try to put something out there, once I start getting traction, they're going to censor me anyway. What's the point? It's like, okay, well, don't let them keep you down. Just be aggressive. So that's what I'm going to try to do. We'll see what happens. Hopefully I won't have any more censorship. I'll be able to. I had 5,000 subscribers plus. I'm going on 6,000 subscribers. It's not like I'm a big name. I just don't. I built that audience. I didn't violate any of their guidelines. It's wrong and unethical what they did to me. There should be accountability, and to take away an audience. They didn't give me that audience. I built that audience up. And this is important content. I mean, I've traveled to those regions. I got video, and I put it up there to educate people. And they take everything away from me. And it's just also frustrating our efforts to encourage the preservation of the Assyrian Christian community and encourage the study of the Aramaic language. And I have very little political content. And if I did, what's it to them? So hopefully we'll have a new birth of freedom, and we'll be able to get back to work, and I can rebuild my audience, at least make this material available for a wider audience. So thank you, and God bless you.
Jesus was an Aramaic-speaking Jew of the Middle East, and the Assyrians are Aramaic-speaking Christians in the Middle East who have endured persecution for over 1,000 years. Join Voice of the Word Aramaic Bible teacher, artist, and author Stephen Missick as he examines the Bible through the ancient languages, peoples, lands, cultures, and times in which it was first revealed. Research the Scriptures, rescue persecuted Christians, and restore the Church to its Semitic roots. And now, Voice of the Word.